Hello, everyone. Welcome to another NFT Tuesday. Hey, David, how are you?
Hello, Marie-Andrelle. Welcome to NFT Martes.
That's right. Welcome,
Yes,
everyone. Thank you for joining us on another Tuesday. Last week, we had an interesting program about artists, and today we are focusing on developers.
yes. So basically, the NFT ecosystem is growing really rapidly, and there is new product, platform, innovation on a near daily basis. What we wanted to do with this NFT Tuesday is to take a more technological point of view and speak with you about all this opportunity for developers, for technology and platform to embrace this technology. So here is for the program, and we moved a little bit the things. We're going to begin with the fireside chat that you're all used to. So one fireside chat with Vitek from the team of Engine, one of the main protocol around NFT, and you know it. And it's going to be led by Tech from Binance X. And then we're going to have a panel with Curve Grid, Arcan Network, Decentraland, and Unstoppable Domain. And in order to finish that, and that has been requested by the community, so we listen to the community, we're going to do a BSC ecosystem recap around NFT, and it's going to be led by our brilliant Sami Karim.
That's amazing. But remember that these NFT Tuesdays are meant to the community, are done for the community. So this amazing panel is waiting for your answers and your questions and everything you want to share with them. So use our hashtag NFT Tuesday to send your questions to them, and also participate on the activities we have. Because last week we announced that we were having 50 NFTs to give away, and here are the winners. So take a look to all these emails, addresses, because you could be there. And if you want to participate on the next NFT giveaway that we are going to do, an activity for NFT Tuesdays, follow the next rules that we have here. First, you have to be registered on the Eventbrite event. If you're watching this and you are not registered on Eventbrite, you won't be participating. So all you have to do is scan the QR that we have right here, and we will send you a short quiz via Eventbrite only. So we will select 10 winners from the Eventbrite link, and we will announce them on the next week. So don't miss this. You could be one of the winners that we had last week.
Exactly, and we do that every week, and we really thank Engine this week for this reward. Let's go really quickly on the fireside chat. So it's going to be Vitek from Engine and Teksha, and it begins now.
Thank you, guys. So today on the Fireside Chat, we're really excited to have Vitek Radomski. So Vitek is the CTO and co-founder of Engine. And Engine is a company that's essentially a pioneer and probably one of the earliest companies, if not the earliest company, dabbling in blockchain gaming and NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Vitek also co-authored the ERC 1155 NFT standard that we all know and love today. And it's probably the standard that most platforms are adopting these days. And we'll get into that later in the chat. Maybe we can start with a high-level abstraction and talk about since you guys have been in the space for so long, talk about how you've observed the NFT market evolve in terms of adoption, the utility, and the use cases.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been a really interesting time with NFTs. We started thinking about this all the way back in 2017 at Engine because we wanted to create a platform for game developers to be able to tokenize their game items and use them in sort of mainstream games. We realized, at the time there was only ERC20, and we started thinking about how to do something like game economies where you have unique items, you have different collections of rare items, and ERC20 was just not going to be a standard that works with that kind of model. So we started with the game industry, and we tried to promote this to gamers and game developers, but a lot of people weren't really understanding at the time. It was it seemed like it would be a cool idea. Yeah, it could give people some ownership, but they didn't really get it. So we started working with indie developers, and they're a little bit more experimental. You know, they started trying to find ways to utilize these NFTs. Some games on blockchain. A lot of the first games were really blockchain-centric games that we started seeing. With ERC 721, I think that was really the first wave where you had the crypto kitties and the crypto punks and all those kind of games where you would trade, maybe breed or modify your NFTs somehow. After that, we started seeing a lot of card games, where the NFTs have some sort of powers, and you can have a nice user interface over the card games, but it would still be trades happening on the blockchain, right? Now with this new NFT wave that's been happening over the last 6 to 8 months, we've really seen influencers and artists jump on board and realize that NFTs are a way to really enhance their brand, put artwork out there and let people own an actual collectible piece of artwork digitally. And I mean, still, a lot of people still don't understand, why would I want to own, some digital information? But I think now with the wave of a lot of artists just jumping on board, all the interesting economics that's starting to bring, people are starting to realize that this is actually a legitimate form of ownership. So now we're starting to see, I think, the next wave. There's a few different things happening in the next wave. Firstly, it's providing more value in your NFTs, like things like being able to use them in virtual worlds, or being able to redeem them for things or combine them. Being able to now also do fractionalized ownership, which I think is a huge advancement, and we're going to see a lot more of that coming soon, where instead of having to spend thousands of dollars on a single NFT, people can be involved and group together and sort of own a small portion of NFT, maybe by paying $50 or $100 or something like that. So there's a lot of interesting innovations. I mean, the space is evolving rapidly, and I think we're also seeing a lot of larger enterprises and businesses get interested in this. We did an early pilot with Microsoft at Engine, and they wanted to find a way to engage their developer community at Microsoft Azure, and giving people just some email with like, oh, congratulations, you've achieved you achieved something in the developer community, wasn't really giving people that sort of excitement that they wanted. So we worked with Microsoft on a program where they would create these rewards that are NFTs. They're called badgers. And then when somebody in the community would do something like, they would post a blog post about Azure, or they would attend an Azure event, or create some open source code, Microsoft would give them an NFT badger. And people started sharing these socially. Microsoft made this map where you could see everyone worldwide who received these badgers, and people really started loving the experience. So I'm predicting that a lot more enterprises are going to start using this to gamify their communities, their businesses, and things like that.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, definitely in the last 6 to 8 months, NFTs has kind of broken through to the mainstream, where I've encountered people who started buying NFTs before they started buying crypto. So it's like the first kind of taste of crypto. So it's very exciting to see. So there's definitely an inflection point we see. We will see how far it takes us on this cycle. But I'm gonna talk about the standards, which is kind of related to some of the problems that we want to solve within NFT space to kind of take us to the next inflection point, right? So we obviously started with ERC 721, the baseline standards, and you guys, or you and a few other folks, took it to the next level with 1155. And then there are a few other standards floating out there, EIP 2981, to kind of standardize the royalty process. And you talked about fractionalized ownerships. Maybe there's a standard there floating somewhere. Could you talk about some of the problems we need to solve to take it to the next level, and what are standards out there that you're looking at?
Yeah, let's do a little overview of standards. And forgive me if I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but there's a lot of EIPs floating around. But for fungible tokens, obviously everyone knows ERC20s. That's just a way to define a fungible currency. There's a smart contract with an address, and each person, each wallet can have a balance of that token. Now, ERC 721 is really the distillation of a non-fungible token. You can create a contract that says, here's my collection of non-fungible tokens. Each one has its own ID, and you can own one of those and transfer one of those around. There's an extension. There's a few extensions people have tried to play with for that to allow things like batch transfers, but they're kind of optional extensions, so they're a little more difficult to work with. So that's why we made ERC 1155, which combines fungible and non-fungible tokens together and gives you the ability to also have things called like semi-fungible tokens, where you can kind of categorize tokens by splitting the IDs into different components. Some of the benefits of ERC 1155 is that we standardized transfers in a way that you can literally just do a transfer to a smart contract and have the smart contract trigger a chain of events after that. So if you just send the token out to a smart contract, the contract can recognize that it received it from you. With previous token standards, that wasn't really the case. You'd have to do a lot more legwork to do that. Some of the other things you can do, for game developers and businesses minting a lot of tokens, you can create these categories of tokens. Like in a video game, you'd have swords and armor and different things like that. And then you can have individual non-fungible tokens inside those. And the whole smart contract can basically have like a rule set that all the tokens follow. So if the rules in the game are that tokens can get locked up for a period of time. Let's say there's a cursed amulet that gets locked on your account. You can have that rule in the entire smart contract. You can have rules for like transfer fees when, maybe it'll cost $1 to transfer to somebody. You can have all kinds of different things that manage that whole collection of NFTs in your whole ecosystem. This is also really useful for things like supply chains and businesses that are doing a lot of minting, things like people who want to maybe create tokenized items as a business, like tokenized t-shirts or something like that. They might want to use ERC 1155 contracts so they can have these different categories and rules based on these tokens. So there's some other token standards. I mean, some of the interesting ones people have been talking about in the last year are, like you said, the royalty standards. One thing that a lot of creators, I mean, everyone actually, game developers, creators, artists, they want to find a way to have royalties because they might sell an item, then the item might gain a lot of value in the marketplace later on, and the creator might never see any benefit from that. And the way that centralized marketplaces work right now, they can charge a fee. Typically, that fee is just going to the marketplace itself. Sometimes the artist can strike a deal with the marketplace and get some royalty fees from trades happening. But these standards are attempting to give the creators some royalties after the fact and completely enforced on chain. So one of the standards, and this is something we actually supported in our engine ecosystem for our tokens as well. It's called ERC 2665, and this is for transfer fees. So when people do a transfer fee gets charged. Maybe it's $1, maybe it's a certain amount of. It's actually denoted in Ether. So you might want to charge a certain amount of Ether every time a token's moved around. Then there's a couple of royalty standards. One of them's ERC 2571. This is a creator's royalty token standard, and it uses ETH, and it's enforced. It's enforced on chain. So when there's a trade that happens, the marketplace that implements that trade can say that the creator is going to get a certain percentage, 25% of the trade, or 10%, or whatever it is. Finally, the one that's been seeing a lot of traction is ERC 2981. I think you mentioned that earlier. This one, I think, is going to be the most flexible royalty standard. The thing about this one is it's optional. So marketplaces really have to, all these different marketplaces, they have to implement that standard. And it's sort of a community effort. So artists will then start choosing probably marketplaces that implement this standard so that they know that they're going to get guaranteed these royalty fees. It still doesn't prevent users from doing trades on the side. And that's sort of a problem which is really hard to solve in blockchain, because if you have a token, you really have the power to do anything you want with that token. But if the major marketplaces implement these royalty standards, then you'll see artists getting benefit from their works.
So you're saying the 2981 is the platform has to opt in to support that standard. Basically, they have to call a function or something, whereas the others are enforced on chain, right? So
enforced, yeah. And I believed with 2981. I haven't looked super deep into it, but I believe you can. It's basically the marketplace can retrieve the royalty information, then they can opt in to pay out the artist in that way. Whereas the other ones are sort of enforced directly, like you call a trade function on that contract.
Yeah, right. Interesting. I also want to talk about fractionalized ownership, because I've seen like various ways of doing it, and I'm not sure there's a standard, to be honest. There's certain protocols that have come out. What have you seen out there in terms of fractionalized ownership?
Yeah, there's people playing with fractionalized ownership, forking things like SushiSwap and making them work with NFTs. I think this is going to be a big area, because, like I said earlier, you want to maybe you want to own some part of that Beeple NFT, and you want to see part of its success, but there's no way to do that unless you have loads of money. So there's new models coming out where people can artists and creators can release their NFTs. Then they can offer them in some kind of fractionalized ownership form, where people can pay Ether or pay some sort of token to have a portion of that NFT, and then have voting rights on that NFT. And there's no real standards as far as I'm aware right now, but I think it's going to be a big space of exploration this year. And I think that will be a huge thing in DeFi and blockchain in general. I think, even things like real estate, if you have a real estate NFTs, those are really easy to mint, and then you can put some kind of standard together that allows fractionalized ownership of real estate or luxury yachts or artwork or whatever you want to do. And then there has to be voting mechanisms, obviously, for governance mechanisms for people to figure out. A lot of these NFTs actually have a use case, right? They allow you to access some sort of value in the world. So there has to be ways to govern that and figure out whether it's some kind of timeshare of something or some sort of lending model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I think those are super interesting. Even today on the DeFi side, where NFTs represent baskets of valued assets. So next, I want to talk about just some of the emerging innovations that the industry and what Engine is doing is super interesting as well. So there are innovations around community and gamification, like Oiler Beats is a pretty fun kind of NFT experience for that community, using bonding curves and stuff. And then there's like more higher level stuff, that things like interoperability, cross-chain stuff, which you guys are working on, and also some of the issues that the entire industry is facing, right? Ethereum gas fees are quite high right now, so it's a barrier to entry for a lot of creators. So yeah, talk to us more about what Engine is doing and what the industry is doing around all these innovations.
Sure. I mean, there's so many different topics in this one thing to unpack. I mean, a lot of the initial NFT kind of hype and momentum has been about sort of turning NFTs into financial instruments, in a sense. And even with fractionalized ownership, it's kind of that, right? Like people are trying to profit off of this and get some sort of financial gains by the success of these NFTs, the success of these artists. But I think a lot of the interesting things that will happen is really the utility, because in the end, you can own a lot of stuff, but if it's not going to do much for you, you want to actually have it do something, whether it gives you access to some rare limited thing from an artist, or whether it's giving you backstage tickets to an artist's events, or gives you virtual access to games or worlds or private content and things like that. So a lot of the utility will also come from mechanisms on chain, like, for example, crafting mechanisms, where people can take multiple tokens, combine them into something new, or unlock access or receive airdrops by owning certain tokens. So we're seeing various people play with those ideas right now. Now, one of the barriers, obviously, the real nexus of NFTs is still Ethereum right now, and the gas fees on there are incredible. I think yesterday I did a transaction that cost me over $50 just to send some ether, and that was pretty intense. So we are all trying to work collectively on solutions to this. Engine is working on Efinity. Efinity is a parachain for Polkadot, and the idea for this is that we want to create a standard where an NFT, no matter what chain it exists on, you can recognize it's an NFT. The standard is going to facilitate these cross-chain transfers NFTs. It doesn't matter what chain it's been minted on. You move it around, it's still going to have that same value. It's not like it's on a side chain and has to move back to Ethereum at some point, right? So that's our vision for this. We want to create a chain that really lets people access the utility of these NFTs. The way that we do that is that we make the economy and the whole chain structure based on value add to NFTs. Like people who are supporting the chain, people who are providing development to the chain, people who are using NFTs, people who are pricing NFTs, they're all going to receive value in some way on Efinity, and that makes the economy function. That makes the chain function, and we think that we have a model that works there. So what that will result in is that the fees that you're paying are really going to people who are benefiting the chain, and I think those fees are going to be much smaller than what's happening on Ethereum, where everybody's piling into a chain, trying to do millions of experiments, and it's real anarchy. Everyone's piling in there. On Efinity, we're going to be focusing on NFTs and that NFT experience. And there's a lot of different platforms. I mean, there's so many different approaches to scaling right now because everyone is scrambling. Ethereum is trying things like, they have these new standards coming out to reduce gas fees, to burn ETH, things like that. But I think that's only going to lower the cost slightly. It's not going to be orders of magnitude lower. Once sharding comes into play, it'll still reduce the fees, but I think we're going to see demand increase 10x by then. So I still think the fees are going to be a massive issue. You generally don't want to store all this data about every single NFT transfer or every single token transfer, every single bit of metadata. Like, we're not even exploiting what's possible on Ethereum because everybody's so afraid of putting any little bit of data on the chain, right? Like, you put an address and a value and wow, it's cost $50, right? What about adding metadata? What about adding all these crafting, all these different things onto the chain? So we're going to have cross-chain solutions that each different solution is going to provide an interesting use case for people. Some of them are going to make on-chain metadata a possibility. Some of them are going to make really fast thousands of transfers a possibility. Some of them are going to do games on the chain, like gamification on the chain and rules and logic, and they're going to specialize in that, and that's what's going to really help reduce the load on the big layer ones.
So Infinity for Engine is essentially a domain-specific chain for NFTs, right? So you're kind of advocating a world where I could mint an NFT anywhere and be able to list them anywhere. So like, it's a one giant market for NFTs. So I could be able to sell it to anyone across different chains.
Yeah, because these are your actual assets. I mean, this is your online identity. We're trying to move to a space where it's sort of like the internet, where we have some standards that the entire internet follows, but people can go and deploy any kind of website, any kind of web app, any kind of game on there that's networked, and be really creative in that space. So we want to work on these standards that are very abstract, very generic, and future proof, so that you can actually understand what an NFT is. You can move it around to different chains. It's going to require a huge community effort, and we're starting to try to make inroads in that, where we're going to be talking to many chains. We're going to be talking to many parachains and trying to get everybody in consensus of what's going to work as a future-proof NFT standard. Then you can mint NFTs on Ethereum. You can move them to different chains. You can move them to our Efinity chain. And on our chain, we're going to really prioritize firstly, like, making NFTs a native thing. So anything you do with NFTs, it's going to be hyper optimized, whether that's trading them, transferring them, crafting them, all those common operations are going to be super hyper optimized. But if you want to do, specific DeFi things, or if you want to do specific, operations with those NFTs that are outside of the scope of Efinity, you might want to move to a different chain and do something there.
Got it. I think that would be a really good state of the blockchain or NFT space, where like people don't have to worry about which wallets to use, and they just own an NFT and that's it. They could sell it anywhere else. I think that's a good level of abstraction for everyone.
It's coming there. We're all working really hard. Everybody in the space is developing incredibly hard. I can't believe how much innovation's happened in the last few years.
What's the progress on Infinity and all these things you're talking about? Is it when we're going to see this happen?
So we're aiming for a sort of alpha beta later this year. I think it's going to be probably around September at this point. It'll probably be more like a test net type of thing with the generic core functionality. Defining these pair tokens, moving them around, doing a lot of the core features. By end of year, we're hoping to have the whole core feature set ready, where you can actually start using this for business cases, and this is like the real MVP. This is like the marketplace functionality, price discovery is going to be there. A lot of the parachain standard, hopefully we'll have some consensus on the the pair token standard. Bridging, we want to have bridging working with at least Ethereum at that point. And then next year, we're going to really start adding on those extra features like crafting, support for more chains potentially. So yeah, that's where we're going right now. We've really bulked up our dev team. Our team is actually almost twice the size now. It's going to be there soon. We have a superstar team on Efinity of really skilled Rust and Substrate developers. So it's exciting to be working with those folks.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, very exciting stuff. We have only a few minutes left. There's a question in the chat. Can you see it? So it's saying, can we create NFTs stored on storage? For example, a Filecoin, which are better protected against like centralized storage, I guess. Yeah, I think we can. Yes.
Yeah, so I think what he's saying is the issue with NFT metadata. So right now NFTs are fully secure on chain, but the metadata, like the JPEG or the movie file or whatever it is that's part of that NFT, can be changed by the host, right? Yeah. So definitely the solution is something like IPFS, where the actual data is hashed in a way where the IPFS URL must point to that data. And then in the token standard you can like bake in that URI, then it will always point to that IPFS entry, and then you're good to go.
So we're talking about immutability of the asset itself, so that you want to store it. So of course, like things like IPFS, you need to pin it. Someone has to keep pinning it, or else it just disappears.
Yeah, there's been a lot of lost IPFS assets over the time, but as that grows and as different networks grow, there's a new one. I just forgot the name of it, but there's another network that's trying to solve this metadata problem as well.
Okay, cool. We only have 2 minutes left. Like any kind of message you want to send out to the developers out there? Anything you want?
I think that we have to start focusing on the creativity of what you can do with NFTs. Go beyond just making like trading platforms for NFTs and making JPEGs. This is for anyone really trying to develop NFTs. Try to offer, think about what your users are gonna feel when they get this NFT. Can you make it something that lasts, stands the test of time, and is usable both using on-chain functionality, like things that you can convert the NFT to, provide metadata. Start thinking about user identity and history and ways to tap into that. I haven't really seen many people looking at the history of NFTs, and when you can start baking in this long-term history of where an NFT has been, who's signed it, who's owned it. I think there's a lot of rich things you can do with that in virtual worlds, in businesses, and exposing that data cleanly to users. So I think we're all going to work on these issues, and it's going to be an exciting next few years with all this.
Yeah. The good thing is like the folks outside of crypto are participating in this innovation as well. So this is really exciting to see.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And one of the things that we've been talking about in the crypto world around like connecting with live events, tickets representing like cross metaverses and stuff like that, where an item could be used in multiple metaverses. We're starting to see that after so many years. So it's,
yeah. I mean, we're actually going to be doing a really exciting drop. I can't actually say what it is, but it's going to be a massive first ever type of thing where millions of people hopefully will be exposed to an airdrop, and we're going to see how this is going to work when just general public gets an NFT for the first time, and what they'll think of it, and the challenge is making that accessible. And making it understandable for people. So we're gonna have a lot of interesting things coming there.
Amazing, super exciting. I think we're out of time, but thank you so much, Vitek. This has been super educational and really informative. Thank you so much for spending the time.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
All right.
What an amazing chat.
Yeah,
So many
and
good guests today.
They announced an airdrop that's gonna come. It's interesting.
That is amazing. So if you're watching us, definitely take advantage of the professionals that we had with us today. Use the hashtag, send your questions, because this is literally an amazing opportunity. And we are about to start the panel. So this is your opportunity to chat directly with them, and we'll be checking everything you write here on the chat.
Yes, and we saw, that's interesting because we saw some questions that were like, that we prepared, that has been raised by the people. So it shows that we are like a little bit aligned together. So let's not wait and invite the people of the panel. So we're going to invite Curve Green, Arcane Network, Decentraland, and Unstoppable Domain right now inside the panel. So hello, Miles.
Welcome.
Hello, Karel. Hello, Brad. Hello, Jeff. So it's going to be really a masculine panel today, but you are here, Marie-André, for us.
Well, I'm representing all the girls in tech.
Exactly. All the women and ladies in tech are represented by you. Really, I'm really happy to have you all. Can we have like just a quick roundtable about who you are and what is the protocol, etc.? Just an introduction of yourself, guys.
Sure. I'm Miles. I'm from Decentral Games, project lead over there, and we're building games within Decentraland. So far, we launched in December. We use NFTs as kind of cosmetic items that you can purchase and equip your avatar with in Decentraland. And we were really focusing on the utility-based NFTs by giving users a reward, a bonus for wearing the NFTs and playing the games, on top of just the cosmetic, being able to wear the items as clothing. So since we added that, those incentives and those bonuses that produce direct financial utility, we saw an increase in the demand for the NFTs, and obviously the price of the NFTs increased as a result as well. But looking forward to the discussion today. Thanks for having me.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Karel. I'm the product owner of our team, and we are mainly building blockchain tools for developers and allowing them to build user-friendly, mainstream blockchain applications, including APIs to create NFTs. And since recently, we've been working on our own market API. Yeah, that's about it.
Hey everybody, my name is Brad, co-founder of Unstoppable Domains. We build domain names on blockchains, and so domain names are NFTs stored inside of your crypto wallet. And unlike a .com domain, they're stored by you. A .com domain is stored by your registrar, GoDaddy, or whoever, and they can get hacked or take it away from you or make updates to it. So it's a similar idea to owning your own digital art or anything else. It's this idea of it's in my wallet and I control it, and now I can use it to build websites on IPFS or receive money or log into applications with my like decentralized ID.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Wentworth. I'm the co-founder of CurveGrid. We're a blockchain middleware company based in Tokyo, Japan. Our product is the multi-BAS blockchain middleware. It makes it fast, easy, and cost-effective to build on multiple blockchains, including Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum. We're helping a number of different teams build on top of Binance Smart Chain in the NFT space, including NFT Marketplace and NFT collectibles. One of the products that we have in beta right now that we're very proud of is our multi-BAS bridge, codenamed Looking Glass, which is makes it very easy to move tokens and NFTs, other kinds of digital assets between different blockchains. And the real advantage is that teams can integrate it directly into their product, their game, or their AR, VR application. So if you're a project that's or a team or developer that's interested in building on Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, we'd love to see if there's an opportunity to collaborate.
Amazing. So we will have a few questions that we prepare, and we are also going to include questions from our community. So tell us, David, what's the first question that we have here?
We have a basket of questions. We will really begin gradually from like simple question about TechPoint to more like a complicated or narrow question. Really to begin, I really want to thank you all because we presented all an aspect of the NFT where your NFT was used inside your protocol. So that's great. We have a base of comparison. Right now, my question that I have is for you and each individually, what is the most exciting technological feature about NFTs that you have or you see or that you wanted to be developed more?
I guess I can go first. I think that it's just the potential that in the future anything could be an NFT. Right? You take a picture on your smartphone and it turns into an NFT, and it's something that you own and you share with yourself and your family and your friends. But then, in the future, it's maybe something that you sell or that you give away, and it takes on a life of its own. And I don't think we've seen that scale, or we've really thought about it at that scale yet. And there are a lot of scaling challenges to solve with that. But the tens of billions of pictures that are taken in the world every year, each one of them could be an NFT. I think that's very exciting to me, that idea.
For me personally, it's more about, as was mentioned in the discussion before this chat, is more the body of the NFT, what's behind the NFT itself, what it can mean to certain people, and especially when multiple projects are putting their weight behind certain NFTs, and that you can create, well, everybody knows the Metaverse, that's a perfect example, but it can go much further than that, I believe. That basically an NFT can mean anything on any platform. That's something I'm really looking forward to see, because I think we haven't seen really the full potential of the Metaverse yet. And that's what I personally am waiting for.
Yeah, I agree with Carol. I think, NFTs kind of give you property rights within the digital space. And in terms of Metaverse, I think, NFTs are a very essential piece of the Metaverse because traditionally in centralized Metaverses, the gatekeeper, whoever runs the platform, kind of has control over your property. And as a result, they can seize your property, you can lose all of your assets. And so NFTs being, a core part of every Metaverse, going forward is essential because, for someone that wants to invest a lot of capital into accumulating these and time into accumulating these digital items, it gives you kind of a sense of security because you have actual ownership and custody of those items. And as a result, I think, folks will end up being more willing to really invest a lot of money and time into accumulating these items over time. So going forward, I think, in our case, NFTs are essential for this reason alone in Metaverse development.
I think this trend that we've seen in general just over the past year of everybody working digitally has accelerated this. But I think if you were to try to fast forward, say, 10 years, you would expect that a lot of us would have the majority of our assets would be potentially digital assets. And the more and more time we spend in the digital world versus the physical world, the more we might start spending money on things like digital assets versus, say, real estate even, or other things like that. So I think that's the general trend. We saw like it get supercharged over the past year, and I think COVID and NFTs on the rise are probably related in some ways. I think it helped kind of make this transition move faster. I think that's one of the super exciting things is that people are talking about the metaverse all the time. Like I think a year ago, maybe that wasn't everywhere, and it seems like it's reached the zeitgeist maybe years quicker than it otherwise would have.
Thank you guys for all your comments. For everyone who's watching, or mostly people at this point that hear what is an NFT, the first thing that comes to their mind is the art, the artists, the football players, and all these personalities that are making it mainstream. But what the reason or the point of our conversation today is the background, the technological development that is behind this. So the second question that we have right now is, from a tech point of view, what is the best use case for you of NFT?
There's not one. I mean, I think that the thing that we've shown in crypto is that there's a ton of prosperous industries inside of just the NFT vertical versus DeFi and all these others. So I think there's definitely not one, but collectibles and art and domains and tickets and music and video content have all shown themselves just in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think one of the things that fungible tokens showed us was that almost like the democratization of finance, right, with decentralized finance and DeFi. And I think we're seeing the same kind of trend with NFTs, right, where if it's things that were traditionally very inaccessible, like purchasing fine art, now anybody can participate, right? And anybody can participate in the creation of it as well. And I think that the democratization of areas that traditionally been off limits, that maybe fractionalized investment in real estate, for example, for anybody anywhere is going to be very, very interesting.
For me, the main thing about, or the core of an NFT is that it's a key. It's a key that gives you access, or it's a key that gives you access to new feature, to new functionality, to content. And a key is so basic in one way, but so flexible on the other side. So that makes it very, very interesting.
Yeah, I would say to build on everyone else's comments, the real kind of value it adds to any platform is it kind of opens up the marketplace to the international audience, or people that aren't even really involved with the actual project itself. That kind of allows speculators, which play an important role with any crypto project in the beginning, because it kind of pins a value on the certain assets that are used within that ecosystem. And so I think it's really important for these NFT marketplaces to exist outside the actual games themselves, because traditionally in centralized games and platforms, it's kind of all closed. And so because it's able to exist outside, it welcomes a lot more people to become involved with the collection and kind of trading of the assets, which adds value to the platform itself. So yeah, I think it's going to play a very important role going forward with all these new projects building within the ecosystem.
Really interesting, guys. To jump off, I'm gonna directly jump off on community question, because I saw some that were really great, and I want to thank our Angel and our community team to point it out and to enlighten those questions and to animate this channel. So do not hesitate to ask your question on the chat, on Twitter, on NFT Tuesday. We look at everything. I have a second laptop there. There was a question that was really interesting, really practical on the developer side, is that how much of your app or game do you put on a smart contract, and how much is on your back end? How do you like make the separation? What do you mostly keep inside the blockchain ecosystem, and what do you get out on a decentralized app or on a back-end ecosystem?
In our situation, we wanted to keep as much as possible on the blockchain, just for transparency, and it's very important, like in terms of any type of financial transaction, that it's recorded on the blockchain, just so you're able to point at it in the future and say this is what happened, this is the history of the transaction. So obviously in our case, we wanted to include all of that on chain. Obviously though, you need it's a balancing act. You need to weigh that with user experience, because with centralized applications, everything is quick and easy to use and very simple from a user experience standpoint. And so obviously there are aspects of the games that we make that need to be kind of off chain, but yeah, I would say as much as possible on chain, while still maintaining a pretty high level of user experiences is our objective.
I think the cleanest way to think about it is that blockchains are asset issuance platforms. So like I think that's like the superpower of blockchains. You can launch these non-fungible token assets. You can launch all these currencies, and it's important for those assets to be on chain so they can be custodied by the owner. They can be freely transferred. They can interoperate. All that good stuff. Probably don't need to have like your like homepage running on the blockchain for your app. That's not going to be super meaningful to the user, whereas ownership of assets is. So like I think that's like a very simple rule to follow.
Yeah, I think it depends on which kind of functionality you're thinking of, because let's say if you want to like register an update or a certain state of your game on chain, you always have to assume that, or you have to think that the transaction needs to be minted, it needs to be covered, it needs to be finalized on chain, which takes time. It's not like in a split millisecond. So that could also impact your gameplay. And you should always wonder what's the main benefit to the user and to your product. So honestly, it really depends on what you're doing, also on which chain that you're using. If you're building something on Ethereum, it might be too expensive, it might be too slow. If you're building on another platform, maybe you have these opportunities to do it. Like also mentioned in the previous chat, you could also store your metadata or not, depending if you want to update it or not, or how you want to achieve it. So it really depends on a lot of factors, to be honest, I think.
Yeah, it's sort of like system architecture, like 101 type of thing to think about, right? I mean, you've got your front end and your back end, your database, and now you have your blockchain, which is really a globally shared world computer and database. And building on some of the things that Brad and Carol Miles said, I would say not only for asset issuance, but also if you want that transparency. Is one aspect, number one. The other one is if you want basically that platform, that global computer where you don't have to spin up AWS nodes, or you don't have to set up a Heroku app. Like the blockchain is just there, and it's cash on the table, pay with transaction fees, compute and storage. And so a lot of the really fancy things that have been done, let's say with NFT marketplaces in the past, around like lazy minting and gasless transactions to meta transactions to try and squeeze every ounce of gas, or shrink the transaction fee as much as possible, reduce that as much as possible with technologies like scaling layer ones like a Binance Smart Chain, or layer twos like a Polygon. Maybe now we can do more and more on chain that we used to do in the past, right? We used to have full decentralized exchanges, DEXs, which have now morphed into AMMs, automated market makers, because we have to, again, try and conserve transaction fees. But I think that's going to open up a lot more possibilities and architectural possibilities about basically where you divide that stack between primarily the back-end database and the blockchain. So, it's going to be interesting over the next year.
So just to give example, because we said a lot of things, so decentralized exchange, you have the Binance DEX, which is an example of one. You can see other decentralized exchange such as IDEX, for example. On AMM, Automated Market Maker, if you want to find example, you're going to look at Sushi, Uniswap, PancakeSwap on BSC as well is an automated market maker, and act as a decentralized exchange, as you mentioned brilliantly. Marie-Andrelle, your turn to ask a question.
Yeah, I have a question here from Israel Lasso, who is active on the chat, and he asks, I have a developer question. How much of your app or game mechanics end up being
We've done
developed
this one.
on... yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay,
excuse
so
us.
the next one that we have right here is NS. He asks, what will be the next level of NFTs from here?
I mean, I think we've seen just the very surface of NFTs so far, the ones that have gained a lot of popularity. I mean, given the pretty massive price tags on some of the art, it's given NFTs quite put them on the stage worldwide. But I think it's really just the tip of the iceberg. In the metaverse, we're working on type of NFTs that are not only cosmetic but also utility based. Give you a certain access, has a certain utility within a game ecosystem. And then in our case, obviously the financial utility in earning bonus tokens if you have it equipped. So, I think that's kind of the next step. I know a lot of other artists are looking into different mediums to build these NFTs. I know, like in our case, we work with a lot of musical artists to perform in our virtual casinos, and so essentially, they've been looking at different ways of combining like the audio with different layers and creating NFTs out of that. So I think it's really that what we've seen so far is really just the tip of the iceberg, and there's lots of different building blocks that artists will be able to use in different mediums like video and audio. I think there's going to be a lot of innovation, and then building upon just the game assets portion. I think that's obviously going to be a huge area of innovation as well.
I think remixing NFTs is going to be the next level, and we've seen a little bit of that. You add a hat or something onto your CryptoPunk, but community remixed NFTs, and I think that it's going to be a very divisive subject to start. Right? If you're the owner of a major sports franchise, maybe you don't want people taking your video moments and remixing them. But on the other hand, if you're an indie like street artist, like you'd love that, right? And that's people mashing up different NFTs, taking NFTs from one game into another game, and I think that the possibilities there are really interesting and endless. And I think that the mix-ups and mashups are going to win out over people trying to keep things to themselves in the long run.
I personally see like 3 areas where NFTs are currently growing. On the one hand, it's gaming, which is quite obvious and quite clear to most people, I think, game items. The other one is like DeFi, where you, like you said, you buy a house with several people, or paintings or art, or use it as collateral to get a loan. And the other one, if you look at it, in the beginning, you just had an NFT, it was an image, then it was like upgraded to like an animated GIF, and then suddenly audio came along and video came along. Now we actually have 3D objects, and we even have people that are asking us if they can put like a 1 gigabyte file into an NFT, like a movie of 1 hour, which is very difficult to do, by the way. And you see it evolve, that they want to enrich it much more and more with more content. And if you then take a look at like the celebrities and the influencers, they also want to do the same. And I think that's the third area where the things will evolve to, and more act like a key which unlocks content, where, for example, an influencer can drop a private video every month if you are the owner of a certain key, or if a music artist can actually pre-release a full audio CD before it's publicly available, or if another artist can give you a concert ticket. And that's the third area where I see things evolving quite rapidly. And that's also an area, because this is like a developer chat, so it's also an area where there's still a lot of tooling required. So talking about NFTs, it's all public, it's all on chain, so that's great. The problem that we have is that also the content is publicly available. So if you want to like offer a full audio CD to the owner of an NFT, that's actually quite difficult. So if anybody is building like a kind of unlockable content platform, I would really be interested to learn about that.
Thank you, guys.
Let me just complete about that, because I find all the points really interesting. So basically, and what we said is that NFT is not at 1/10 of its potential. Basically, right now, the use case, it's an object that is unique, but there's going to be many more use cases. And as you pointed out, and I think there is like 2 points that are really interesting: gamification, meaning what you can like do inside gaming environment, but what you can gamify inside real environments, such as administrative stuff, etc., could be NFT. And also, and to conclude, and that was said really good, an object is cool, but an inert object is not cool. And so what are the possibilities that you can do with an NFT is the things that's going to need to evolve: fusing, combining, remixing, making the NFT evolve with your user experience, with your knowledge, with all those things will be interesting, because it's going to create unique elements on top of unique elements, etc., etc. So all those experiences are experiences that you guys developed, and we're happy to see all this new use case. Going more a little bit quicker and going really into practical question. I had some questions that I saw on the community. Is that as a developer, what is the starting point if I want to understand more about NFT, or if I want to go deeper inside NFT, etc., etc.? What do I begin to do? What do I do? What is the first step?
I think there's a bunch of, as a developer, right? As a developer, I think that there's a number of different tutorials out there on GitHub. And I think that starting, I mean, it's blockchain, right? Starting at the smart contract, playing around with that, and then trying to build a simple kind of user interface on top of it can be very helpful. That's one way to do it. So sort of trying at a tutorial. Another way would be to go and take a look at how, one of the existing NFT marketplaces works. Maybe if you're a little bit more experienced, all of the things around, we talked about gasless transactions and lazy minting and things like that. There's a lot of complexity that goes into it. Right? How do orders get matched? And I think that could be another kind of interesting way. And then think about how you might fit that into your game or your application. So I would start and I would start there.
Yeah, start at the basic. If assuming you know blockchain, if not, start with that. And once you have that piece, read up on the standards. And Jeff already gave some good examples on how you could start. Maybe another easy one is to create a simple NFT mentor that will also help you understand what an NFT is and how you can use it.
Yeah, I think you sum it up. Start with the basic, create your first own NFT, then create an NFT minter, then look at the ecosystem, test all the application, etc., in order to understand the experience that are proposed, the code that is already there, and then if you find something that is missing, maybe develop it on your own, or even join a team. Discuss with the people on Telegram channel. We have an amazing Telegram channel, which is Binance NFT. You can join it and discuss with all the communities. There is developers, there is creators, there is artists, and there is Angel. And all those Angel, we are monitoring all this activity, and I want to thank them all for all the work that they do. Marie-Angel, speaking about Angel, do you have another question?
I'm checking here on the chat. Basically, the previous question was the top question. Everybody wanted to know where to start. So we are definitely grateful for your answer right here. So a lot of people is talking about gamification too. So one of the questions that I have right here, and I see that we previously talked about here, was what's the difference between purchasing in-game items from a game and buying in-game items as NFTs?
I mean, if they're referring to the centralized kind of counterpart, I would say purchasing an NFT just gives you full custody over the item, and so you can control what you do with it. You can sell it on a marketplace that's outside of the game ecosystem. I think we kind of touched upon that earlier in this roundtable, but I think it's pretty clear that the benefits really outweigh any downside that centralized assets have, or for NFTs compared to centralized assets. So I think it's for anyone developing and looking into developing NFTs for a specific game, I think it's definitely worth looking into kind of how you can incorporate NFT assets into the game, because I think it's huge for community involvement and just outside involvement with your project.
I think this is true for every crypto category, but you get interoperability automatically. That's like the whole point of all these standards. So you have all of these wallets that will automatically store these different types of NFTs for you. You have all these marketplaces that will support them for selling. You can potentially use them in multiple applications. I think that's the true benefit of a standard and of a blockchain asset to the user. If you're not if you're not worried that someone's going to be taking it away from you, because I know we talk about custody a lot, and I think that's super important. Crypto community even talks about censorship resistance as a property, super important. But the thing that you're going to feel as an everyday user is the interoperability in terms of the benefit. Like, unless you're super paranoid, then maybe you would.
So let's give an example of interoperability that could happen. Imagine that you're like a real good player on first-person shooter, Call of Duty, Warzone, or PlayerUnknown, or Fortnite, or any other game. And let's say you are really good at one game. You stacked a lot of items. You have like a crazy level of experience. Everything can be represented by either one NFT, either a set of NFT. You can like think about it as a saving mechanism, like on your old console or on your old PC. Imagine that you go into another game, totally different brand, different universe, different stuff, but it requires the same skill set. This game could read your experience from the other game and then transpose it to the new game. So that's important for two things. The first one is that, when you go from one game to the evolution of this game, sometimes you lose some data, sometimes the interoperability is not working correctly, etc., etc. So it's going to simplify this way to go on this saving mechanism and create also a universal norma. And the second stuff is that imagine you have a game you're really fan, you really like it, you invested a lot, a trading card game or stuff like that. Imagine that you can benefit from all this investment in time, in patience, etc., in other different experience, which is exciting, because if I want to target, let's say, the elite of the game of the same game that I'm doing, I can create like a bridge in order to give them some different element based on the NFTs that they have collected inside the previous games they were playing. Thank you a lot, everyone. It's been a pleasure. We're gonna go to the next phase of the NFT Tuesday, which is something that has been really asked by all the community and is an update of BSC ecosystem. So most of you have protocols that are also on BSC, and it's really good to give experience on that. And then we're gonna speak about BSC. Before going to that with Sami, I'm going to give you the last word. What do you want to say to the developer? Any piece of advice or a last word about yourself? Please don't hesitate.
So I would say that there is a huge opportunity right now to join the ecosystem. There are so many companies that have gone from nothing to massive just in the past couple of years. So if you're looking to get into the space, either as a developer, or as a business person, I would say that there's probably a lot of people on this panel are hiring. We're definitely hiring. There's just a lot of opportunity right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's early days. It's early days still, and it's like the 1980s of the internet, right? And massive opportunity. Just to put it in perspective, right? In-game items, not NFTs. Talking about video games is a $50 billion industry, and all of the things we talk about around interoperability, around mashups. I mean, that's all coming, but it's going to take a lot of developer talent to build, right? So whether you're a business person looking at the business opportunity, or developer looking at the long road we have ahead of us, huge opportunities.
Yeah, I would say to build upon that, I think I agree with Brad and Jeff with in terms of developers. If you're or a business person looking to get involved with the space, there's lots of opportunities. We're hiring, everyone else is hiring, trying to expand the team. But I also think, like, from a player perspective, there's lots of opportunities to earn a lot of assets. If you get in early as like an early community member of a protocol or a game that's growing, that they're designed to kind of reward the earliest adopters and the users of the platform. So if you get involved and just kind of participate, attend events, and accumulate some assets within that game, you can be handsomely rewarded by the appreciation of those NFTs. So I think just from a pure player perspective, there's lots of areas where you can get involved and actually make quite a solid return from just being there and being early and participating. So something to take into account as well.
For me, my advice actually to the developers would be creative, because there's really a lot of room to build something unique, and always keep the benefit and the value of the NFT in the back of your mind, because nobody just wants to be the owner of an image. It's all about what you can do and what it unlocks. And yeah, I think that's the two most important pieces of advice I could give you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
So let's jump from the next panel, Sami, and let's join Sami from the BSC ecosystem in order to give us an update. I really want to thank you all, guys. You've been fantastic.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Not every.
Hey guys, really great to be here with everyone. Great to have this opportunity to share some updates from the BSC team about what's going on. Also take the opportunity for some of the other listeners that may be not too familiar to share some updates about BSC, how we got here, the current status, and where we're going. I'm going to share a couple of slides. So I think maybe I'll start with a little bit of background and history about how BSC is here today. So I think BSC is really a product of feedback that we received from the community after the launch of Binance Chain. So for those who don't know, there's two independent but parallel blockchain infrastructures. One is Binance Chain, which was launched in 2019. Binance Chain being the single-purpose, high-performance chain that's running the Binance DEX, but that's it, right? It's a Tendermint-based chain, purpose-built to run the DEX, so it's high throughput, high speed. That's running Binance DEX, and those that aren't familiar, Binance DEX is the order book-based, decentralized trading venue built on top of Binance Chain. Doesn't have the ability to run smart contracts, so really just purpose-built to run the DEX. And that was really one of the main feedback that we received from the Binance Chain community, was to develop and provide this public permissionless general purpose blockchain infrastructure that had the ability to run smart contracts and for developers to build applications on top of. So I think also important to mention some of the key criteria that drove design decisions for Binance Smart Chain. One of the really important ones was driven by Binance worldview, that there will be an internet of blockchains that's powering the emerging Internet of Value, or what we know as Web3. The other really important factor was making it really easy for the largest developer ecosystem in crypto and blockchain, which today lives on and is building on Ethereum. So EVM compatibility was also super important. So Binance Smart Chain today is 100% EVM compatible. So developers that are familiar with tooling and building on Ethereum can build on BSC really easily. Another really important factor was providing a really low cost, low transaction / gas fee infrastructure. So of course, many people today are familiar with recurring issues with network congestion, which has driven really high transaction fees on the Ethereum mainnet, and in ecosystems and domains like DeFi has become kind of restrictive, is not super accessible. So that's what BSC was built to serve, was this really accessible, highly accessible, public permissionless blockchain infrastructure. So that's a little bit of background. I'll just run you through a couple of data points about where BSC is today. So today the network has about 7.6 million BNB securing the network through proof of stake and the validator nodes. There's over 560 projects deployed on BSC today, and many more building. And also an increasingly diverse validator candidate community. Some more interesting data points. So we're today about 9 months since the launch. Binance Smart Chain was launched on the 1st of September 2020. So we're just a little bit over 9 months since the launch. There's over 70 million unique addresses. The network today is processing over 6x the transaction volume happening on the Ethereum mainnet, with an average gas / transaction fee of 5 cents. So coming to NFTs, so obviously NFTs, and we're all super happy that NFTs are found their moment to shine, and lots of great events and activity happening around NFTs. But I think a number of really important factors about why BSC has become a really attractive infrastructure for NFT projects and developers to build on is, of course, EVM compatibility, but you also have today a number of other infrastructures and developer tooling, including NFT bridges, which allow projects to bridge NFT assets from ETH to BSC, and a number of other tools that improve the end user experience. Also, of course, one of the most attractive facts about BSC today is a large, probably the largest global community of users. So there's about 1.5x the daily active users compared with what's happening on ETH mainnet. We also provide, so of course, BSC is supported massively by Binance. There's a number of initiatives, programs, incentives that are provided for teams and developers building projects on BSC, and including community initiatives like hackathons, but also other types of grants and funding opportunities, including investments, and other types of support. Coming more specifically to the NFT space, there's today a number of really vibrant marketplaces, NFT marketplaces. A couple of them are listed here, and we welcome more participants here. And other important components, so there's also today fiat and crypto on-ramps and payment solutions. So both fiat to crypto as well as crypto to fiat, making it really easy for, let's say, even including audiences like the non-crypto or new and novice users. And also a super interesting aspect which materialized more recently is for NFT projects building on BSC will get prioritized support and integrations with the upcoming Binance.com NFT marketplace, which we're all super excited and looking forward to seeing. So just to reiterate, we've been doing and will continue a number of different types of initiatives for developers and project teams. We ran recently a hackathon in Africa and another really successful one in Russia, and we'll be continuing to roll these out in different parts of the world. We also have a number of different grants as well as funding opportunities and bounty programs accessible by teams wherever they are geographically. So here are some of the key benefits that developers, wherever they are in the world, can really access. Also wanted to share a little bit of updates on the landscape and share some insights on the diversity and number of projects building on BSC today. So of course, today, a lot of people might be familiar with a lot of the DeFi projects. So Venus, PancakeSwap are some of the really popular ones, but the diversity is really broad. There's a large number of projects building across a number of different domains within the DeFi space. Obviously, it's clear that DeFi is becoming or is already one of the killer apps within crypto and blockchain, and BSC is really well catered and serves a number. I think there's a number of really interesting aspects for that here, right? So I think it's also that BSC serves as this kind of interoperability layer for DeFi projects, with developers and DeFi protocols being able to test market demand with a whole range of assets that aren't really easily accessible in, let's say, the ETH DeFi ecosystem. So assets like Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and many, many others. So the growth of the DeFi ecosystem, as well as other factors like low transaction fees, has resulted in this massive growth of DeFi within BSC. But it's not only that. So we see a lot of growth of derivatives and other types of use cases, but also like a lot of growth on infrastructure and tooling, obviously with a large user base in DeFi, large and growing developer ecosystem. There's also growing support and projects in the tooling and infrastructure space, and we highly value their support to the BSC ecosystem. And then, of course, coming to NFTs and gaming as well. There's today a very vibrant NFT ecosystem with a lot of new players coming in, a lot of players that see and embrace a multi-chain future, that many projects that were initially housed on Ethereum that are finding a second home on BSC and benefiting a lot from the large and growing user expansion that's happening in the BSC ecosystem. So in summary, BSC is growing. We are developer focused. We're massively focused on improving and continue to improve the developer experience on BSC, and welcome developers to get in touch with us, benefit and subscribe to the various incentive programs that we're rolling out on a continuous basis, and look forward to your support on growing the BSC ecosystem.
Thank you so much for that amazing update on what is happening on the BSC ecosystem. How was it, David?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. And thank you, Sami, for the update on BSC ecosystem. BSC is really working fast, growing fast, expanding fast.
I can't believe it's been less than a year. When you hear it, it's like mind-blowing.
Well, it was in September, actually, that we launched
exactly.
it. So,
I feel like Christmas was a month ago, something like that. Time is flying on crypto.
When you're on Binance, like time flies really fast. Really, thank you all to have joined the NFT Tuesday of this week. We spoke a lot about gaming inside, and that's really good because it's going to be the subject of the next NFT Tuesday. We're going to focus on the experience of NFT in gaming, and we're going to invite specialized guests that create games, etc., and that's going to speak about this. So please stay tuned for next week. Do not hesitate to interact on Twitter on NFT Tuesday. Join our community on Telegram. And did I forget anything, Marie-André?
I think so, because if you're going to watch us next week, you must be registered on Eventbrite, because we are giving away a lot of prizes every week. So if you're not registered on Eventbrite, you won't be part. So go to the QR code right there, scan, register. You will be receiving a quiz right there. So be part and stay tuned, because you could be one of the winners next week. And also, this is very nice that we had a lot of people interacting with us on the hashtag and also on the YouTube chat. Remember that we are very early. We have a huge opportunity. Like, not everyone was when internet was created, and we are alive to and right here. So continue talking about the topic on Telegram. And also, if you don't speak English, remember that we have other communities, like the local communities of Binance Spanish, Binance in French, Italian, etc. So right there, NFT is a hot topic.
Yes, and it's going to continue to be until the release of the much-awaited NFT platform of Binance. We see you next week to speak about NFT gaming. I really want to thank you so much on behalf of everyone, to thank the Angel to have been moderating this panel, to thank the community management team of Binance to have helped on doing this event. And I see you next Tuesday with you, Marie-Angel. See ya!
Of course. See you. Bye.
Bye!